Hi John, this is my CA2, the Doubly linked list. As discussed in your office, most of this code, well, all of this code really, is Jason Stewart's from year 3. I've made sure that I've mentioned his name here at the top, and also the way he's done things is more complicated than he's better at it than I am basically, and he's done stuff that I certainly wouldn't have done. Now Jason used a lot of arrays to store the search results that he used inside his program. Now I've completely removed that, and he also has a hell of a lot of validation, which is something I don't really think about, to be honest with you. And while I did remove the validation at first, it removed a small but essential piece of code which stopped the whole thing from working. But I'll run through it anyway. So here's the program running. So if we press 1, insert new record. Now I couldn't figure this out, but every time I press 1 it just asks me for another choice. However, if I go to a value outside the size of the linked list, then it gives me a chance to do it. So if I press 1 for yes to add it to the end of the database, well, if I press 2 for no, it just gives me back this option again. So if I go outside the range and press 1, I can give it a name. So I'll call it ROM Space Knight, old Marvel comic character, level 1, experience 1, and ROM Space Knight was inserted at position 52. Press enter, and it goes back to the menu again. If I press 2 to delete, if I choose the option 52 for the record I just searched, it tells me ROM Space Knight was removed from the database. And if we press 3 and look at all the records, we'll see that it's only got, now I don't know why this is printing out, it's giving me the value of, the size of the linked list next to what looks like the element numbers. So I think that's this, it's seeing out the count there and the size of the linked list. But if we look at 52, we see that ROM Space Knight has disappeared. So if we press return again, go back to the menu, and we add ROM back, so again if we go, so it doesn't let me do that, so if I go outside the range and press 1 for yes, type in ROM again, Space Knight, level 1, experience 1, ROM Space Knight was there, and if we then print out all the records, we see that ROM Space Knight is at position 52. So that works to some degree anyway. So we've inserted, we've deleted, we've printed out the records. We can press 3 and we'll search based on first name. We'll go to 2 and we'll go for ROM, and if we go up the top, ROM Space Knight level 1 experience 1 is there, and then it prints out the count. And if we go to 3 again, and based on his surname, let's try a different one. Let's go for Johnson. And there's a few Matt Johnsons. There we are. They're all there, and along with that down count. And we'll try 3 again. And based on level, now I don't. Yep. So if we go for level 1, because we know ROM Space Knight is. This didn't work. I couldn't seem to get this to work, and I also couldn't get the average level search print to work either. Okay, so that's that. And if we delete all the records, database is cleared. If we then go to print out what's in there, it tells us there's nothing there, so we'd have to add a record. And because the list is empty, it's allowing me to enter the very first one at position 1. So the first node will now contain this record. So ROM Space Knight level 1 experience 1, ROM's there, press enter, press 3, press 1 for all, and there's ROM Space Knight, and it tells me the number of records is 1 of 1, so there's only 1 record there. Okay, now if we try, we'll have to add another one. So we try 2, it's outside the range, so we say yes for adding it to the end of the database, and we'll repeat the record, level 1, experience 1, and ROMs there. So if we press 3 and print out all the details, there's 2 ROMs. Okay, and now we're going to get rid of the duplicate entries, so we'll press 5. 1 record was deleted. Press 3 again to print out the menu, and there we have 1 record of ROM space night level 1 experience 1. And if we press 9 to quit, oh sorry, back to the menu, press 9 to quit, the program ends. So here's the main program. Now I must reiterate, John, that like when I first got this code, like Jason is extremely good at this, or at least to my eye is. I'm sure you'd probably agree. The like all his stuff. Now originally up here there was an array.h file, a header file here. Now I removed the header file and I removed every function that called upon the functions within the array header, because it's not a method I would have used. Simply because I wouldn't know how to do it. So I've kept that out altogether, and I was actually quite impressed about the fact that I could do this and still get it to work without Jason's functionality. So we've got a Boolean menu here. So while the menu is true, while the menu is false, the menu will keep coming up every time the clear function is called. So when you press enter twice, it goes back to the menu every time. It's not until you press 9 when it becomes true, and the function for this is down the bottom. I'll get to that. That the menu quits and the program quits altogether. There's also a search function here based on different parameters. Now the first name and last name work, but I couldn't get the level to work, unfortunately, and that uses an iterator to search through the list. And that's the function for the search. So here's main. So we have some characters, we have some players here already in there. They're all from bands I like, sorry about that, and a couple of writers. Okay, so we create a list of players, doubly linked list of players should I say, and then we use a for loop to populate the list. So every time it gets to 3, it runs through it again. So we'll do this 3 times. So this, let's see, this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Well, it's enough to make 52 anyway. 51 anyway. So I think it's it has to be a multiple of 3. So while the loop will run until so while the menu is false, it will keep going through. So we have that's our menu, Boolean menu, with our linked list of players, and we have our there as well. So that's the menu CAouts there. With the C in choice for each one, so so depending on the choice it comes up. So here's the first one, which is insert a new record. Now Jason's first thing here was if there's anything it checks to see if there's anything in the list, and he's using the list size function. Now when I was looking this up, I looked, you mentioned something in the CA document that like if you can find any kind of quick fixes or shortcuts or like funky bits of code, we should mention it. Now I was looking this up, and apparently the correct method of checking to see if a list is empty is the unique function, but I couldn't get that to work, but I just thought I should mention it anyway. So now this is where Jason's validation comes in. I originally, like I said before, I originally moved all the validation because it isn't something I'd use, but I had it almost working, but I was still getting problems with it, and it wasn't inserting the player into the node. So my expertise ends there, unfortunately. So it will insert a new record, and if it's now this is where if the answer to the where would you like to insert is one that gives the integer variable answer. Now if the answer is greater than the size of the list, then it goes to this and inserts new record, and it says this position is greater than the size of the database, and it gives you a second option: press 1 for yes, 2 for no. So I had to keep. Now I don't know why that is, because down here the answer is set to 1. So if the list is empty, don't ask. Now when we deleted the list altogether and started and entered the new record, it immediately allowed me to put it into the first position, but it wouldn't let me do that if the list is already populated. So I couldn't figure that out. Now he's also got validation for the name length, so you can't have a name that's larger than 12 letters or less than 1 letter. and if it's too long, it prints out this thing here. Now Jason used the .clear function here, and I've looked that up, and as far as I'm aware, it clears the buffer from the console, and so that just brings back the menu again, I believe. But I think that's part of the loop as well. I don't know what this does, I have to be honest. I think that's to do with the again, that's another part of the clear function, but if I remove it, it doesn't work. So again, the validation for the name choice is there, and it keeps looping through, and then there's a string method for the level and the experience. And then when it gets down here, it calls the prepend function, which is in the Doubly list header file, which is insert after. There's append and the prepend function there. So this puts it straight to the beginning of the list. Okay, and then it prints out where it was and in which position it was. Well, of course, if it's the first one, it goes into the position 1. If it's greater than the size, now this didn't work as we saw before. Then it puts it into, then it appends the player instead. Now he's got a clever little feature here, which I was very impressed by. He's declared an integer called mid, which is the size of the list divided by 2. Right, so it means that when it loops through the list, it will actually loop through it kind of splits the list in 2, making it easier for the iterator to put the node in the data in the correct, the data inside the node in the correct position. So it's quite quite good, and he uses that on everything. So in other words, instead of having to go through the entire list to find the correct position to put it into, he divides it into 2, so that it becomes the so if the answer is less than mid, it goes it starts from the first part of the list, and if it's greater than mid, then it goes to the other half of mid. So the other half of the list. So I thought that was quite neat. The choice is 2. That's this is the remove function. So it removes the player from the database. Okay, and again, there's the validation. So if it's an invalid choice, then it just keeps asking you, which is something I wouldn't do, to be honest with you, John. But it's nice to see that this is how I should be thinking about when I actually do start programming. And again, it goes all the way through. Again, he's using the mid. He's calling that quite neat little mid integer to allow the iterator to work more efficiently through the list. At least I think that's what it does. Okay, so this is the search functions here. So there's the. That should be gone. I actually took out everything to do with arrays there, so that's a bit of his commenting that I should have taken out. So when they get the choice, they press 3 for search, and then you've got this sub menu that comes up. Then you can search by, you can print all the records, you can print search by the first name or the last name, and the level, or search by level. No, I couldn't get that to work. I also removed the average level because I couldn't get that to work either. And again, so now what he did here was he once he'd found all the relevant records in the database, he actually stored them all inside an array and then printed the array out. Now I didn't do that. I used the CA2 iterator from going to each node and showing the data in each one. Excuse me, John. So if you go by first name, it does the same thing. So, but it's looking for it'll be looking for the name. Where is it? And it also prints out the number of records that are relevant depending on the search. Sorry, I think I've missed something here. Where is it? Oh yeah, sorry. It uses the iterator to search through each node to find the relevant string. So in this case, the relevant string depending on the first name or the last name. There, let's go down. Clears the database is just so while if the choice is 4, if the list is great, going through the site, if it's Sorry, John. This is part 2. We seem to have more and more things to say in these screencasts, I think, and we don't get enough time. Okay, so to carry on, so with choice 4, it checks to make sure that the list is greater than 0, so there's something inside the list. And while the now I went looking up the valid function and could not find anything on it, but I'm assuming what it does is it makes sure that what the iterator is going through is valid. And so if the list is greater than 0 and the iterator is valid, it calls the remove function and uses a boolean to remove. It's the boolean true to say that yes, remove that node. Now going back over, I just watched the first part of the screencast, and there's one or two things I missed from the top, so it's actually quite handy that I've got an opportunity to go back and make sure that I've covered things that I'm pretty sure I didn't mention the first time. So going back to insert the new record, let's get down to where I saw the bit I missed. We'll get there in the end. There it is. Sorry, it creates the player. So player D is equal to these arguments. So name, S name, level, and experience. So then prepend D. That's the argument for the prepend function into the list. So I thought it was relevant. I should mention that. And it calls to tell you which record was inserted. It calls D and the variable m first name in the player header file there. So get back to me and get back to where we were doing. I think we were on the remove. May have gone too far there. Oh, sorry. This is the going back over this. So the choice is 2 to remove a player. Again, it checks that the size of the linked list is greater than 0. You've got it asks you from which position you'd like to remove it. It checks the answer is less than 1, or it's greater than the list size. So again, sorry, this is another validator. So if it checks if it's less than 1 or greater than the list size, then there's nothing in there. So there's nothing in those positions. So it asks you again. And so while the answer is less than 1, the answer is greater than the list size. If it's 1, then it removes the head. If it's equal to the size of the list, so in other words, if it was 51, it would remove the tail. It would remove the very last record in the list. And again, he's called this rather clever mid function here to make sure the iterator has a more efficient time finding the correct one to be removed. And again, the remove function is called here as well. Okay, and again, that's the end part of it. So then there's the choices, which we've already gone over. Sorry if I'm repeating myself, John. It's just after watching the first part of the linked list, I've realised I've missed bits out. And again, this removes this. I think we've covered this. It goes through the entire list with the iterator and removes all the nodes within it. So if the choice is equal to 5, then it checks for duplicates. So it calls the search duplicate function in the Doubly linked list header file there. And here it is here. So it uses an iterator to search through the list, and there is now I think I've got this, John. But it creates a temporary pointer, and if it's again, there's the validation. So if it's invalid, it won't do anything. It just returns. And then it goes to the next node's value, and then it compares the node's value to the temporary iterator node's value. If they're equal, then it removes them here. So again, if the iterator in this node, if this node is equal to this node, then it calls the remove function with the iterator, and then and then comes back. So that's how that's been done. Now there is no way I would have been able to create something like that, but I think I have a good understanding about how it works. And then we have the exit application. So if you remember way back in the first semester, I couldn't get my quit function to work. Well, Jason obviously has, and I think I'll be using this in the future, but I think I need to understand how this works. Well, I think I need to understand how it works altogether, to be honest with you. Okay, and there's the search parameter. So again, it's looking for the iterator goes through, and this is for the it's looking for the first name here. So it's comparing one node's the data given as the first node. So if the string of the first name, as it were, it compares that to the next node again, and it keeps going through, and then it will see out the data of the repeated node. Okay, and it's the same with the last as well. So okay, I think that's everything there. Again, just to reiterate, this is really Jason's program. This is not really my program in the slightest. Now I was happy with the fact that I could actually remove an awful lot of his code where he was using arrays, and I could recognize where I should successfully use different things. So where where he was printing out the return to the array from his functions. I wouldn't have done that, so I didn't include it. So I think that's it, John. Thanks very much indeed. Take care. Bye.